Hey there, friend. Welcome to the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Warner. This podcast is all about taking a few moments for yourself and reconnecting to the amazing woman behind the title of mom. You have so many plates spinning at any given time between your kids, your partner, your job, maintaining a household, etc., etc. But where does taking time just for you play into that? Let's spend some time together, you and me, right now. We're going to connect, tune in, and tap into what makes us the incredible woman that we are. We'll nurture ourselves so that we can pour into those who can count on us. We'll also hear from other moms to learn about the ways in which they've tapped into alignment in their own motherhood journeys. Let's roll. We're having a mom moment. Hello, my friends. Welcome to this week's episode of the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I am your host, Shannon Warner. If you're listening in real time, happy fall. I'm a basic girl. I love some fall. This week, I am excited to share my guest, Sarah Schafer. Sarah is a teacher turned coach for mothers who, after her own journey through postpartum depression and anxiety, is now a coach with a passion for helping mamas find their identity after baby. Our work is so aligned, and this conversation is so important for mamas to be, new mamas, and experienced mamas alike to hear. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. I love talking motherhood.
I know. There's so much, right? So before we dive into what you're really passionate about and what you're all about, can you share with us a little bit about your own motherhood journey?
Yeah, so really that's kind of lucky. That's kind of where it all starts, which I suppose is normal for most moms, but that's where my whole story starts. So I'm a mama of just one. Former kindergarten teacher, and I was teaching and had a baby in 2019, so right before the pandemic, and had a very fun dip of postpartum depression and anxiety when he was probably about one or so, and that's kind of where everything starts, and I'm so grateful for it now that I can see the other side. But there was a time where I would just lay down and my husband would take my son. He was so supportive through all of it, but I would just watch my then 1-year-old laugh and play with his dad, and I would feel nothing at all. And it just broke me inside. It's knowing my brain knew, like, you love this kid, and not actually having that feeling was really hard. So that's kind of where all of this started. So there was a time then that was kind of winter, and I'm lucky enough to have like a short stint of that postpartum depression anxiety. I think I kind of kicked my butt into gear because I was determined I am not going to stay like this. This is not who I am. This is not what I'm going to be. So that was that. What was that? That was 2020, winter of 2020. Naturally, we have pandemic and all that going on also. So the following spring, I decided, like, this is it. Like, I'm done with this. This is terrible. I hate this. We're not doing it anymore. Gave myself a little bit of space, and I had a divine idea in my brain that said, start a small business, for whatever reason that would be. So I actually started a small business, making shirts and sweatshirts for moms and minis, because I have a son and I wanted to be able to match him. So I started that, and that really is kind of where a lot of my growth came from. I am a former teacher, so I enjoy learning and doing new things, and so that was kind of really fun for me to start the small business, and I always want to grow. So I would listen to podcasts and things and was like, oh, I can do this, and oh, I can do this, and it really kind of became a hobby for me, and something that I just needed to take my mind off that, like, everything's awful feeling all the time. So I was able to get myself out of that focusing on how hard things were and kind of feel a little bit lighter. And then after that, everything just kind of exploded. I'm like, everything's great. I can do everything. Here's all the growth I've made. And it kind of gave me the permission to start on myself. So I started therapy, and I started doing 17 other hobbies. I still have a full-time job, but I do coaching, and I have a small business, and so I have 1,000 things going on now, and I've kind of given myself that permission to actually be able to grow. And that's when I realized, like, oh my gosh, other moms do this too. I can help other moms with this too.
Yeah.
So that was a long version, but that's kind of where it started-ish.
I love so much of this. I was also a teacher once upon a time. I left in the end of 2014.
Good for you.
I am so in awe of women who teach and have children, because I was like full out going 100 miles an hour at all times, working way too many hours, had zero boundaries. And I'm like, how do people do this with children? And I understand you just do. You have to adapt and you have to start placing those boundaries. But oh my gosh, I don't know how you juggle all of that. And also, I had a dip around my 1 year mark too. And a lot of people don't talk about it happening later. Don't quote me on this, but I think now they're saying like up to 2 years, it's like still postpartum. And now they're even talking about like the true postpartum period lasts, 7 years? I think that's where they're starting to.
I can totally see that. Mine's 4 now, so I can totally understand that transition period.
Yeah. I mean, and ours is almost 6.5, but then we added another one who is now 19 months. So it's like we were getting close, we just started all over. So all of that really, really resonates. But I totally understand like the dark period and then for me, I was never diagnosed and I don't know for certain what I had, but it was dark. And I'm going, no, it's been a year. Like this can't be that. This is a me problem. This has got to be something else. And
then you're also busy focusing on your kids that you have now. And that's really where a lot of my passion comes from, is because I have always been someone who I get good grades. I do the right things. I do what I'm supposed to do, quote unquote. And then I had a baby and it was so hard.
Yes.
I think not to toot my own horn in a bad way, I think I struggled more than most moms do. So I don't want to scare like new moms, but I really struggled way more than I expected to. It was my biggest new thing as becoming a brand new mother. And so then by the time he was 1, that part got a little bit better. But after giving that first year of having a baby is super hard,
So hard.
And you're just constant. I was breastfeeding and it was difficult and it was a whole situation. And so after a full year of that, I think it happens to a lot of moms. Like, who am I now? I'm not the same as I was before I had a baby, but I'm also not, I'm not in that first year after having a baby. So then they're kind of just in that like floating period. And that's really, I have a huge passion for that and helping moms with that, because I really struggled and have seen so much growth. And I'm so excited for other moms to be able to feel that. Growth.
Yeah. I think there's definitely something about the 1 year mark where you're like, okay, I kept them alive for a year. And you think a lot of the hard stuff's over. And then you have these feelings like you and I experienced. We're like, wait a minute. And I was very much the same way. Like I was the honor roll kid, Dean's List in college, high achieving. And I was like, I'm smart. I can have a baby and it'll be fine. I've read the books. I've taken the classes, whatever. And then it's nothing like you expect. And it's like, I think it adds another level when you're like one of these high achievers, when you're like, wait a minute, but this is hard. I know on the outside I look like I have it together, but like this is really, really challenging. Yeah.
100%. And I think that like, I was one of the first of my friends groups to have a baby. And so then I would get all these like, you make that look so easy. You look so good. You're doing everything right, which is, they meant it well. But then, I'd come home and just sit here and like, everything's terrible. They don't know. And then they got pregnant and I'm like, oh God, I have to tell them it's not easy and I'm not doing it right. And this is not normal, And so then I kind of felt like a responsibility. Like I have to be the one to say like, hey, this kind of sucks a little bit and that's okay.
Yes.
So I feel a really big responsibility to just like shout from the rooftop, like, it's okay if motherhood sucks sometimes.
Yes. I think it's so great that they had you to tell you that. Like I was very lucky. I had a friend who was pregnant and our due dates were very close together. Our girls ended up being born 3 weeks apart, but she was very much like, I want to be a mother. Like she was very nurturing, very, like all of the qualities, and she's a fantastic mother and she's been a beautiful friend to me in all of this. But I was like, she and I are not the same. Like I feel like she's cut out for this. And I feel like I'm like, well, I've read the books and checked the boxes. Like, it'll be fine. So, I mean, I'm grateful to have somebody, but it was still a different experience. And even still, she and I talked, about this recently. I had her on the podcast in the beginning and she's like, I don't know why we didn't talk more about our struggles. And we learned that we were both kind of faking it, with each other.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to save face with one another. Like,
yeah. I think, I don't know that it's necessarily for one another. I feel like it's for ourselves. I feel like
you're probably
right. Can admit to themselves, because that was hard for me to do. Like, once I got to the point, especially with postpartum depression, once I got to the point where, like, I don't know how he did it. My husband was so supportive. He somehow kindly worded to me, like, you need to go to a doctor, without being pressuring in any way. But I feel like that was my first step. I was horrified. I did a video call. It was during COVID. Couldn't even go into the doctor at the time. I was horrified. Like, I was shaking in bed to admit to this doctor that I was struggling. A doctor who I don't even see that often. Like, he's a family doctor, but it's not, it's not that big of a deal to say that. And it was admitting it to myself, was like, I'm struggling, and like literally just getting the words out. There was a time where I couldn't even get the words out to my own husband, who I've been with for 10 plus years, and I couldn't even say to him or articulate like what I needed. Oh my gosh. Yes. So admitting it to ourselves, I feel like, is a really big, hard thing to do.
Yeah. And I think the more we talk about it and the more people hear it and the more relatable it becomes and the more, mainstream, quote unquote, like, this is what people are dealing with. And I can't even imagine like dealing with that in the thick of COVID, how challenging that would have been. But the husband piece also really resonates, because it wasn't until the second pregnancy that I really kind of shared with my husband how bad it was. And for me, I think what kind of triggered it was I got back on birth control around that time. And it seems like that really like accelerated my dip. And he knew that part wasn't going well. And he knew I was struggling, but I told him, and this was, my daughter's almost 19 months. But so about 2 years ago, I told him, I said, I just need you to keep an eye on me, because it was way worse than you realize. And you didn't do anything wrong, because I was hiding it. But like, I just need you to keep an eye on me. And
that was another part too.
Yeah.
For me to say it, like, this is not you. This has nothing to do with you. And obviously it's hard on a couple. I mean, it's hard on both of us. It's hard to say, like, this is not your fault.
Right.
But here's what I need from you.
Yeah.
So I can relate to that too. We had a lot of those hard conversations too.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like you have a wonderfully supportive, loving husband, and so do I. And even still, it can be challenging, but the dialogue is key, because they want you well. They want you well for yourself. They want you well for your family. So you gotta, if you're struggling, raise the flag, raise it early, raise it often.
That's something I like to teach about too, is asking for help, even if it's not like in the throes of postpartum depression. It took me literally my son's entire life he's 4 now, to ask for help. Like, before kid, I would have never asked for help no matter what it was. I would just die there. But it's taken me all this time, and it's so freeing to be able to ask for help and then get that help. Like, I feel like people that are like me that don't want to ask for help would just be so shocked at how easy it is and how little people care when you ask for help. It's like they don't mind. People are so willing to help. People love to help. I love to help other people. And so, like, once I was finally able to do that in any way, like, I set a reminder on my phone. I have an app that sends reminders of whatever you can put the words in, and it sends you a reminder like twice a day. And I literally would put, like, you can get help if you need it. That was like a big block for me, was getting help in any way. Like, hey, can you pick the kid up today? Or can you make dinner tonight? Like, those simple things. And then it got to be like, okay, I really need help. This is hard. And let me ask someone for this, whatever bigger help that I needed. And it's just amazing how freeing that can be, just simply asking for help.
What a good practice, though, to start asking for the smaller things, so that when you have a bigger ask, it feels easier. Just like with anything else, you're going to start small. So So I actually am building a program to help working women transition into working moms without losing themselves. And I'm really focused on catching them in the beginning, when they're in the transition, right in the early postpartum, and then transitioning back to work, because I feel like I really struggled with that, keeping everything together, like making A+ in all areas of my life, and then I'm just dying inside, and that's a big piece of it, is like, let's build you in some supports before the baby even gets here. People say they want to help, let them come hold the baby so you can take a shower. Like, let them run an errand for you, and just
I think even having like
Totally.
prompts of what you will need help for, because I like,
Yes.
especially in that like newly postpartum, like I don't even know what to ask for. I'm dying, but I don't know what I need. Like my brain was just such a fog. It's like, I don't
Yes.
even know what I want or need. And so like there was a point where I would put things in my phone, like I need this, I need this, I need this, so that when someone asked, hey, it's these things that I need. So it was
I
kind of
love
set
that.
up ready for me, and my brain didn't even have to think about it.
I love that. No, that's so brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had kind of created like an outline of like, when somebody asks, can I help you? Here are some, yes. Can you please bring me coffee? Yes. Will you go on a walk with me? Yes. Will you come hold the baby so I can, go to the doctor alone or whatever? It's like, yeah. Yeah. So let's dig into what you do. I mean, you've definitely given us, a peek into your world, but I want to know more.
So I am starting to coach. I'm a little bit after you. That's funny that you're doing like the postpartum into working. And I'm looking more for moms that are a little bit later than that. Yeah. So they've done the thing, they've settled. It's kind of a little bit what I ran into is like, okay, I'm, better now, but I'm just flatlining. I'm not phenomenal. I'm just doing better. And that even took a while itself, because it was constant fear of like, what if I go back? What if it gets hard again? What if so that did take a while, but once I finally got there, it was like, okay, but now what? Now I'm not sad, but I'm not happy either.
Right.
So I kind of look for moms that are a little bit, maybe their kids are a little older. Honestly, the age of the kid doesn't matter. It's what they're ready for. But once they realize like, okay, now my kid is not so much, as needy, or it's not 100% my focus like it is in the newborn days. What do I do with myself? I'm just sitting here, once they go back to school, that's the time, right now, since they're going back to school and a lot of moms are struggling, like, what do I do now that they're gone? Obviously, you don't ever stop being a mom, but it's a gradual shift as you get older and your kids get older of what you focus on. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on now. I have a course that will open here in like mid-September and then start October 6th. And it kind of focuses on, I start with mom guilt, because that's always a thing. And then kind of go into different areas of moms' lives. So I talk about your space. So like literally what is in your home or where you live or in your workplace. So what's physically around you. I talk about hobbies and the importance of hobbies, which are, I hate to use the word hobbies, because hobbies gives you the thought of like, oh, it's a little side project. It's not that big of a deal. And to me, I'm like, you need hobbies. Like that's one of my biggest things. Do something for yourself. Do something for yourself.
Yes.
And giving moms permission to do that and getting them to give themselves permission to do that. So that is a huge thing that I cover, is hobbies and giving time for yourself. And then I do kind of mindset work. And actually, we were in a course together with Kathy Heller. Yes. And she said at one point, it blew me away. I literally almost fell on the floor from hearing this. She said, a lot of moms say that they struggle with spending money on themselves. But if your kid came up to you right now and said, Mom, I want to do gymnastics, and you didn't have the money, you would find that money. Yep. And literally that one blew me away, because I was my son had asked me for gymnastics the week before, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So it's mindset and obviously spending money on yourself is a portion of that part, but it's like that one just really got me, of finding that for yourself the way you would do it for your kid. Yeah. So I do a little bit of that, and then I do kind of some future focus on what moms want to be, and just really letting them open up and dream and decide what they want to do. And I do a little bit of talk about a purpose. Have you ever had a struggle with that? Have you?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I thought most moms, but it's like the word purpose is so loaded. It just blows my mind. And I swear I sat there for an entire year. What's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? I have a job. I make enough money to feed my kid, but that's not my purpose. And what am I supposed to? And the whole like supposed to do purpose concept is like a whole thing that I cover, because that one just really, really grinds my gears.
Oh, and your purpose doesn't have to be your children. Like you are their mother regardless, and you're going to give them as needed, but like give care as needed. But that doesn't have to be your purpose. And I think that's another reason it's so loaded for mothers, is if they're like disconnected from that being their purpose, it feels icky to them. Yeah. For me, I was a teacher and I was always going to be a teacher. And then I left teaching. I was like, now what?
Me too. Yep.
Oh, like, if I'm not a teacher, what am I? And it keeps coming up for me that I end up in like leadership roles, even without trying. And I'm not tooting my own horn, but I just naturally gravitate to those positions. And, I find opportunities to speak and talk to other people, and I end up teaching people things. It's just, I think it's kind of in my wiring, and that it doesn't have to be the traditional teacher role. And like, that can look like so many different things in the world, and giving yourself the space to explore that is huge.
Yes. I think even just the word purpose itself really is so heavy.
It is.
Like there's no checkbox that says like you've done it and what your purpose is, and then the universe will deem that is good enough or not good enough. So I feel like a lot of people think like, my purpose is helping people. I have to help people because that's what's the right thing to do.
No.
So I hate the word purpose itself. It's like, you don't have to have one thing that you do that you were born to do on this earth. If you want to drive a sidewalk to obviously enjoy it, go do it.
Yeah.
I'm so big into moms, like anyone really, but moms especially, just doing what you enjoy because you enjoy it.
Yes.
Living your life, that is your purpose, is to do what you enjoy doing and what you want to do.
I know. And you saying it to me, being a student of Kathy, I'm like, I get it. I totally hear you. I receive that. Yeah. Working on embodiment of that. But like other people are like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes what happens when you're a mom, especially someone, high achieving, I imagine we were similar, like career oriented, in some capacity. And then you're going, I'm a mom now and I don't know what I actually want. And I don't know if it's that. And I've been working towards that. And then the purpose thing comes in. But if I'm not that, then what am I doing? And like, ooh, the identity crisis.
Yes. So much so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a whole thing becoming a mom. And it's like you become a mom and then you like unbecome who you were before, but it's not all bad. You're able to set things down. And I tell my friend who just recently had a baby, I was like, it's amazing the stuff that you'll set down just because you just can't hold it all anymore. They're like, never mind, that's not mine. I can't. I'm too busy over here.
Or really even things that like before I was a mom, I thought like, I'm not going to struggle, I'll be fine. Or here's the things that will be hard for me. Changing diapers, maybe I'll be a little tired, that kind of stuff. I had no clue the things that I would set down that had nothing to do with being a mother. Little to do with being a mother. So things like, relationship issues with my own mom. I thought, that's whatever, that's over here, and motherhood is on this other side over here, and it's two totally different things, and it just kind of collided. And it's like that whole thing just became like, oh gosh, I'm just growing in all kinds of ways.
Yep.
Like I said, don't even technically have to do with being a mother, but man,
I feel like it's the catalyst for so much.
So much. Yes.
Yeah. It's so transformative. Transformative.
And I've actually had friends that I from high school or college that I have on Facebook, but I don't talk to them daily, that have become mothers, and I'm like, I really I would like to get back together with them. I would like to see who they are now, because who I am now is not even close to who I was then.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, maybe I have this opportunity for new friends, because they're different people too. It's like a whole new everything when you have a kid.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And I think that's why sometimes people get hung up on like, oh, I have friends who don't have kids and they don't get it. And it's like, you all are evolving. They're evolving in their own way. And I have a couple friends that are childless, and we can still hold space for one another. But it's like, I feel like I'm a different person. Thank you for coming along for the ride. I appreciate that you're still here. But yeah, it's incredible. Oh, it's so loaded. I'm so glad you brought the purpose piece up, because it is absolutely so loaded. So if we can learn to set that down a little bit.
I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah, it's huge. I've never thought about it that way. It was something I struggled with, but I thought it was more tied to my job. And I realize now, I'm like, I feel like my purpose is to be here, to be present, and to, like you said, follow what you enjoy, follow the joy. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I assume a lot of people are feeling that way post pandemic. Like that has to be more so than in any other time. Like I'm sure people have always felt that way, but I assume that that's been my day job that I have is a work from home position. And so that's even, my husband even said at one point, he looked at me and he said, are you sure you still want to work from home? Maybe you want to find something that you can go out, because he knows I love connecting with people and I love doing something. And I just feel like a lot of people are probably also struggling with that, especially if they're working from home or doing something that's not like a traditional 9 to 5 kind of job.
Oh yeah. I question everything. My whole life is upside down. I question in a good way, but I'm like, yep, nope, I'm not available for that anymore. I'm also not available for this. Yeah. It's so interesting. Yeah.
It feels so good to be able to set things down though. Once you start realizing like, I can do this, and then you do it, you're like, oh my God, that was so easy. I can just set it down and not hold for that anymore. Wow. It's amazing. It's so beautiful.
It's so amazing.
And it was so unclear to me that I could even do that before. And then I started therapy, which really helped. And then taking courses, it's like, oh my gosh, life can be so easy and exactly what you want it to be. It's amazing.
I know. I totally hear you. I'm right there with you. Yeah, when you just start following the breadcrumbs of joy and being present, it's like amazing what unfolds for you. And yeah. And I just giving yourself the grace to look at the ladder you're climbing and going, is that the wall I want to be against? Like, I don't think that looks so good for me anymore. And it's okay to set the stuff down, especially with people who've been building careers, like, this is all I've ever worked for, but it doesn't fulfill me and it's not rewarding. And I kind of hate who I am in this role. Like, set it down. Yeah. Or in any area of your life. Yeah.
I totally understand. It can be super hard for moms because it's like having kids feels so unstable because it's just constant. So there's always something,
Yeah.
And so then like when you're also looking at like the job aspect, it's like, oh geez, everything's unstable. But at some point you realize it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But I totally understand that, like, oh God, I can't do this and have a kid and do,
yeah.
all the things.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Can we circle back to hobbies for a minute? Because this is something that I struggled with, where I was like, what do I even like anymore? So what do you recommend when someone's like, okay, I get it, I need to make time for myself, but what do I do?
I started at the end of the year, one year, where I was like, you know what? Next year is going to be the year. You know how everyone does like their Facebook posts of like, here's all the things I did all this year, and you're looking at like, dang it, I didn't do anything.
I didn't do anything.
Yeah, it's when you shouldn't be comparing yourself to other people,
right?
So I'm like, you know what? Instead of focusing on what I didn't do this year or what they did that I didn't get to do, I'm starting next year early. I feel like if I have a deadline and I do things early, then I feel better about myself. So in December, I made appointments for therapy starting in January. And I was like, okay, what else can I do? This feels good. It hasn't started yet, but I can like give myself that date. So I realized I am 30 now. And ever since I promise you, in kindergarten, possibly even younger, when I was asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I said, professional figure skater. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to ice skate my whole life. I was February birthday. I wanted to ice skate. That was my birthday party every year because you can only do so much inside in Indiana.
Right.
So ice skating, and my parents could not afford to ever have me in any sort of anything. So it was like, the few times a year, if that I ever got to ice skate, that was my thing. So that December, I said, I'm going to figure skate. I don't care if I'm 30. I'm going to go out there with wobbly knees and I'm going to figure skate. So I signed up for a teen adult class, and now I figure skate with a bunch of teenagers, and I don't even care. And I love it so much. It lights me up so much. And I've had friends ask, like, well, do you want to be a figure skater? Or are you going to compete? Or, like, where do you think you're going with this? And I laugh. And I'm like, I'm going nowhere with this. This is so fun for me. And they're like, well, why are you doing it? And I'm like, because it lights me up inside.
Yes.
Because, like, I get such a high from going around in circles on the ice that I don't, sitting on my phone or paint. Like, I don't get that with painting, or I don't get that with crocheting like other people might. That's just my thing.
Yeah.
So that is a long version to say it's possible to look at something that you have set down, whether it was as a kid or a teenager or even as an adult, that's like at some point you were told you can't do this, we don't have the money for this, you don't have time for this, that kind of thing, you can be a gymnast and not be an Olympic gymnast. You can go on the balance beam and do it and not make it your whole life. And I think especially with like sports and stuff like that, it gets to be like it's either your whole life or it's not worth doing type thing.
Oh my gosh, right? Like where's doing things just because you like it.
Right.
I know.
And so that could be a good place to start, is looking at something that you may have set down. Do you have anything like that you've ever set down before that you can think of?
Yeah, for sure. But what makes me laugh is one of my guilty pleasures is Real Housewives. And on the new Real Housewives of New York City, there's this woman named Brynn, and she's shared her story. She grew up like super poor. Her parents were not available, and had to live with her grandmother. And she's like, now that I'm an adult and I have money, she's like, I'm doing all the things that everyone said no to me. And she was like, I'm going to a chess tournament. I'm learning how to play chess, just for fun. It was so inspiring. I was like, get it, Brynn. Like, that's amazing. Yeah.
And so that could be anything. It doesn't have to even be a hobby. It could be travel. Go to a place that you've never been able to go to before, or that you've never thought, like, well, other people do that, but I don't do that. Other people have a house cleaner. I don't have a house cleaner. Those type of things where it's like just really sit for a minute and think about what you have not let yourself have or what someone else has not let you have or do. Yeah. And it feels so good when you figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was dance, and I danced through most of, school when I was a kid. And then I taught when I was in college. I taught some dance classes and I loved it. I've taken a few classes here and there as an adult, but I need to get back into that. But it was something that I would have loved to do for a career. And, my father, who loved me very much and was trying to protect me, said, we don't confuse hobbies with career choices. Okay, so instead I'll go get 2 degrees in a field and then burn out of that one. Like that worked out well for me. Yeah. But it's so interesting how people are like, well, where are you taking this? Like, just the way the mentality is in America, it's like, you can do things just for fun, right? Yeah. And you don't have to monetize them either. You can just do it because you want to.
I've actually even started a list I'm a queen of lists. So I've started a list in my phone that's like stuff I like to do. So if I come across, my son's 4. We do creative stuff all the time because he's 4. So I actually got into watercoloring. I suck at watercolors, but like we did it together and I'm like, this is amazing. We can literally sit at the kitchen table. It's something we can do together that I actually enjoy. It's not sitting on the floor and pulling trucks, which is not my favorite.
Right.
And we can do it together and I can just like be, and it's like the time just flies. It's amazing. Yeah. So I have a list now of stuff that I like come across or that I really enjoy. And I'm like, oh, I actually like this. Let me just write it down and come back to it. So that if there's a time in the day where I'm just like, what should I be doing right now? What do I feel led to right now? And I'm just sitting there scrolling my phone or whatever. I can go to that list and be like, okay, maybe, let me pull out this book that I wanted to read, or let me watercolor for a bit, or just something kind of creative. I try to lean into more creative hobbies, so I'm not just sitting on my phone.
Yeah, you've probably seen it on social media. There's different variations of it, but it's like you have an hour without your children and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Do I take a bath? Do I clean the whole house? Do I learn German? What do I do? And then you panic for a whole hour. Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, I feel that.
You just wasted it. Yes.
I know.
I mean, I've done that where you get, the rare 3-hour nap or whatever it is, and you do it for 3 hours. You're like, how did I do that for 3 whole hours?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Capitalizing on those nap times. And doing things for you in those nap times instead of being like, I have to clean up the toys and I have to do this and the laundry won't wash itself. Like,
I think that's where I started. Like, I'm all about growth and wanting to learn and do new things. And I think that's where a lot of it started, is because I could not function, which I actually talk about when I teach too, is like your space around you, where like, you're right, I don't want to do the laundry in my time, but if I don't do the laundry, I cannot function in this household. And so it was kind of a balance of like, okay, I need to do this laundry because it's freaking me out and I'm just angry because it's around. So I'm going to do the laundry, but I'm also going to listen to a podcast on, whatever makes me happy, on personal growth or anything that I actually enjoy. And it kind of became like a challenge to myself, of which I don't encourage massive multitasking like that. But, of multitasking of like, I can do all of this is for me and I can do it simultaneously, to try to kind of ease that like chore feeling.
Yeah, or like putting music on your favorite playlist while you're cleaning or whatever, but making some of it for you. I love laundry, actually. It's my favorite chore because I can multitask.
Oh my gosh, come to my house, please.
I will. I'll be like, I'm going to start the laundry, and while it's running, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And yeah. I've also heard this piece about just putting like an earbud in or a headphone, like one in when you're with your kids, and like if you feel like you have to sit on the floor and play trucks, which playing make believe is not my jam either, but putting something that you want to listen to in your ear like takes the,
I do that at bedtime all the time.
Yeah,
I put it in the opposite ear so he doesn't see it. It takes my son forever to fall asleep, and he will not fall asleep without a human next to him. The whole thing.
Yeah.
But there's times where I'll spend an hour in his room at bedtime. And so I'll literally put a podcast in and like, okay, honey, I'm going to sleep now. Close my eyes, listen to my podcast for an hour. And it's great. It like literally is like me time. And then my son falls asleep in my arm. And I'm like,
this is perfect.
Thing ever.
Yeah, you're not neglecting your child by doing that. Yeah, I think Kathy said it. She was like, I don't like to play Barbies. I'm not 7. Like, that's not my thing. I'm like, wow, what permission? Like, you don't have to play Barbies if you don't want to.
Yeah. Which is really like, that's with my watercoloring with my son. It's like, I really try to like, let's do things that we can do together that I enjoy. So I'll put together a list. I mean, like 2 or 3. I'm not making a whole list, but like a few things that I'm like, I would enjoy doing this. Do you want to do this, or this? Things that I enjoy also. Play-Doh or more hands-on creative. We play Legos because then I give myself permission to be creative with that, and that's a creative outlet for me. You know, to me, it's not the same as sitting and playing trucks or pretending we're a TV show or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm the activity mom. I'm like, I would rather, like, do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to ride bikes? Like, what do you want? Do you want to go here? Would you want to go here and do this? Like, I'm like, let's go do something. Do you want to play a game? Like, I don't, the unstructured downtime, which is so good for them. I'm like, I cannot.
Yep. I'm the same way. I'm like, let's go do something so we're not just sitting here bored and mad at each other.
Yeah.
We're just sitting so we're not just sitting on a screen. And my husband is the exact perfect balance of me. He is cool chilling in a chair, like doing nothing. And so I'll take our son to go out and do stuff, and then we'll come home, and I'll take some time to myself, and my husband will take him, and they'll just relax and play and whatever. So
we strike a beautiful balance during football season. My husband's a big Notre Dame fan, so when those games are on, it's like, forget it. But he's also like, you can leave and leave the kids here, and that's fine with me as long as I get full access to the TV. Like, So balance is key. Yeah,
take advantage of those times where you can be alone.
Oh my gosh, alone time is so important. Oh my gosh.
There were times though that like this was even, I didn't realize it was a problem for me until I had my kid, naturally, like everything else, where I couldn't be alone with myself. I could not drive in the car without music on. Like the thoughts in my head felt like they were going to explode. I could not just listen to my own head. Which is like obviously a problem now, but at the time, young me didn't even realize that. And so then I had a son, and then I would, my husband or grandparents or whoever would offer to watch my son. I'd get that time, and then I'd just sit there and be like, oh my God, I hate this. And that was a long process too of like meditation and actually finding time. And now I love it. Now I need more of it than I ever thought I did. But it was like finding that calm with myself was actually really hard and now enjoyable. But at the time, it was like a really big thing that I didn't realize was an issue.
Yeah. The idea of meditation before I started meditating was like, you want me to do what? Especially as someone who I'm like, oh, I have things to do. Like, you want me to just sit with myself? But now I'm like, I need it. Give me more.
I won't lie. There's been times when I've meditated and multitasked, and I'm like, Sarah, what are you doing to yourself? This is the exact not what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. It's an art and a practice for sure to be able to calm yourself, to sit with yourself. And that's why I usually do it in the morning because I'm too tired to like fight. I'm like, fine, I told myself I would meditate. I'm meditating, But if you told me to do it at 6 o'clock or whatever, like there's no way that I can stop right now what I'm doing with my mind racing. Yeah. The meditation thing is a recurring theme. I know you and I hear it a lot, but even the people that I'm talking to, they're like, meditating, make time, meditate.
I've had a handful of moms that are still in the like meditating is woo and weird, and I'm all about being woo and weird. I'm fine with that at this point, but it's like even trying to get that out of like it might not be what you think it is, and it doesn't have to be what someone else does either. It doesn't have, honestly, even my husband, I'm still working on him of like, you think meditation is this, and maybe that is for you, that's fine, but to me, it's this, and there's so many different forms, and really, I feel like it all comes down to sitting with yourself. Can you do that? Can you sit with yourself, and for what amount of time, and giving yourself that time to not, before I would say, I'm just sitting with myself, or I'm just relaxing. I'm not. I'm listing in my head, what do I have to do later, and how can I quickly get these 3 things done after I meditate, before I go pick up my kid, or whatever it was, where it's like, that's not the point.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so much of what you're pointing to is between like the hobbies and the meditating, and it's just like doing things for the sake of doing them without an outcome in mind, and because you should do it for yourself. Yeah. We're so outcome driven
to do it.
Yes. We're so outcome driven. So if we're like, I don't see how I could monetize this, or it's going to make me not get this done. It's like, no.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm projective and always do the right thing, and so I do that without even meaning to. My brain's always like, oh, I like this hobby. How could I sell that? Like, it just goes to that. And it's not my fault that it does it, but that's something that I'm constantly working on catching, is like, you can just be, you can just exist, you can just do things. And it's a constant, and I know that, but it's still a constant reminder to make it, a regular thing for me.
Yeah. What a beautiful space, though, to be like where you can just be. If you would have said this to me 3, 4, 5 years ago, I would have been like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What? Like, that seems unreachable. I don't know what you're doing over there, what you're smoking. What do you mean just be? Yeah.
Same. And also finding other people that feel the same way feels, I don't want to say hard, but feels like, everyone else is just in the thick of motherhood, and how can you ask more of someone else? Mm-hmm. Hey, do you want to meditate with me? Hey, do you want to talk about this book we read? Or, that kind of stuff. So I totally understand that it's also hard to find someone else who, you kind of feel like you're in a sea all alone sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. And that's why I'm so resonated with what Kathy does and the container that she creates, because as amazing as she is, the people I've met through this program, it's been so life altering, and you never know where you're going to find the person that you need to be that sounding board, and
also I've also, like, through all of that, kind of given myself permission to ask others permission of, can I do that with you? So friends that I currently have that might not be on that same track or have any knowledge, like, can we talk about this? This is something I'm into. Are you okay talking about this? And then, like, I'm pleasantly surprised sometimes. Like, my best friend does not know any of the stuff that I've done, especially with Kathy. And so we'll just sometimes have conversations about it, and it's really cool to hear that other perspective. And so bringing people into what you're doing also is possible and really, really cool.
Yeah, it can be scary, though. I think when you're on the woo side over here, people are sometimes scratching their heads, but my best friend's the same way, but for her, hers is like, I need to be out in nature, like I need to go take a walk in the woods. Like, that's my meditation, and it's everyone, is reaching for, I think, something similar. We just call it different things. It looks a little differently, but I love that. I think you really probably touched on this already, but was there anything else in motherhood that you experienced that you didn't expect it to, like, shake up in you?
Honestly, I think just having a hard time. I realize that seems like an incredibly, like, ridiculous thing to say. Like, everyone struggles. That's obviously a common thing. But I did not expect, at least not to the extent that I did. I did not expect to struggle. I thought, like, changing diapers I can learn how to do, and parenting I can learn how, which I did. I didn't expect it to be as hard as it was. And it took me a while to give myself the grace to accept, like, this was hard for me. And now I can say that this was really, really hard for me.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But yes, I think having any form of struggle was just not even there for me. I had no
same. I was like, well, we're adding a whole human. Like, of course there's going to present challenges in that experience, but to the extent, and and the way that it, like, bled out into all areas, for sure. Yeah, I definitely feel that.
It's funny. You have a whole human and they become a whole human. Like, once you get like into the ones and twos, like they get their own personalities, even as babies. And then like you become a whole human as well. It's like
Oh my
it
gosh.
all just reaches out at the same time. It's beautiful. I don't mean to sound like parenting sucks. I being a mother. It's just like it's so much. You grow and they grow. And I didn't even realize how much I would grow, I guess.
And having two, I was like, if I have children, that's fine. If I don't have children, also fine. We had one. We sat on the fence for a long, long time, which is why our kids are almost 5 years apart. And I feel like I went through a whole other level of transformation. And having the second, I had a major life event happen. My dad passed about 3 weeks before my second daughter was born. So that played a lot into it. But I'm just like, the person I was in early 2017 when my daughter was born and the person I am today, and then the person I was in early 2022 and the person I am today, it's like, oh my gosh, totally different. But I love her so much. I love who she is now so much. I love the other versions of me too, but it's just like, wow, we've come such a long way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And parts of it do suck. And I think the more we talk about it and the more we normalize that, I think the less new moms can struggle. They'll also have their struggles, but they won't be beating themselves up to the same extent, of like, oh my gosh, no one else is talking about how hard this is. Yeah. Is everyone else, just excelling in this?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I just had a conversation with my good friend who just had a baby about a month ago, and it's her first. And she's like, I was prepared for this. I was prepared for this. I was prepared for this. But she's having some struggles with her milk supply. And she's like, I did not expect that, first of all. And I didn't expect that I would care as much. And it's like, you never know what's going to hit you. You don't know what the thing is going to be. And it's all okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it all comes down to giving moms permission to be. Like, you have permission to suck.
Yeah.
It's okay for it to be bad, and I feel like when we do talk about it, I personally, at least, will say like, well, she struggled, but she also did better at XYZ. I'm always finding an excuse, even if it is talked about. And so then giving moms permission to, think that in their own head of themselves. Like, what makes you different from me, from that mom, doesn't really matter,
Yeah. And I so firmly believe at the end of the day, like, your child was picked for you, whether you believe from God, soul journey, whatever you believe, like, your kid is your kid for a reason. And it's like, it's all okay. Yeah. You're doing fine. You're probably doing better than fine, Yeah. Oh my gosh. So out of all of the wisdom you shared so far from your experience, if you could pick one piece of advice to give to a mom, either at the beginning or in later stages, anytime, what would it be?
Okay, I'm going to cheat. I have two.
Okay, fair.
Which the first one, though, is not really advice, so it's fine. The first one is like, you're doing a good job. I think every mom needs to hear that at any point in time. And even if it's not to what you think your standard could be, you are trying, you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're doing a good job. You're a good mom. The other one, though, is you are allowed to be more than a mother.
Yes.
So focusing on that as much or as little as you want to, but I hereby grant permission to the entire world of mothers. You are allowed to be more than a mother. I'm not diminishing motherhood, but I'm saying you are more than just a mom, and that's amazing.
Yeah, that's what this whole podcast is about, because we lose ourselves in it so easily. I'm like, you are so magical. Like, and if all you want to be is a mom and you're thriving, beautiful. I love that for you. But like, there's so much more if you want it. There's so much more. Yeah. It's so easy, I think, especially for working and juggling all the things. And then the societal pressures that we internalize. Like, it's so hard to do it all. And then
what we watched our parents do or not do.
Oh my gosh, right. Yeah, and then see opportunity for yourself as anything outside of, well, I work and I do this. I'm a mom and I work, or I'm a stay-at-home mom and this is just my path. And how can I do anything else? Yeah. I think the work you're doing is so important.
Thank you. I love it so much.
I'm so glad you're doing it. I'm so glad you're doing it. Where I'm bumping up against is I don't want to rain on anyone's parade in pregnancy. You know, they're planning their nursery and they're picking out names and they're planning their baby shower. And it's like all so fun and beautiful. And it's like, there will be dips and like, let me help you navigate that. But I don't want to be like, hey there, some of this is really sucky.
Hey there, I know you're pregnant, congrats, but this sucks. No.
Yeah.
You know what, though? I think that having the courage to do that is all the difference, because no one wants to do that. And that's why everyone says, well, nobody told me. Well, yeah, we weren't going to tell you that you're going to bleed for a month and you're going to be miserable and your nipples are going to hurt, you know, all that kind of stuff. No one's going to tell you that. We're trying to be kind. It's not kind, though. That's not helpful, is lying to you and saying, like, yes, everything's great. Here's your cute, squishy baby. You're all done. Yes. You know? And so you having the courage to do that truly is amazing. I will back you all day, every day. Don't tell us pregnant moms it sucks.
You know, it's like, my therapist told me, you really value integrity, don't you? Like, I can see that after I've been going to her for like a year. And she's like, that is key for you. And I'm like, it is. And it's like, none of us are standing in integrity when we're just like, it's going to be great, you know? And it's like, just some of it's going to suck, and I'm here for you if I can help you. And and then you talk about like sore nipples and bleeding and all this stuff. And a lot of times you're going back to work if you're here in America, like, I hope you enjoyed your 6-week vacation, back to work with your sore bottom half and your leaking nipples. Like, Jeff's kiss. This is a beautiful experience. Like, so hopefully the mamas come to me and then we will funnel them to you. Hopefully they've got good support and they're not totally lost and broken. And then, you know, for a little added support, they can find you and your work. And I get angry because there are not systems in place in America to support moms in this capacity, to the point that we're all out here building it ourselves. And you and I are not alone. There are other people doing this work too, because we're like, it's not available for us. Like, fine, we're going to do it ourselves. Fine. And it's so frustrating that it has to be that way. But I feel like moms can do anything. It's like, leave it to us. We'll get it done. I don't care.
I agree. It's 100% mom power. I can say, I had, whatever it was, 6 or 8 week, you know, your appointment after you have a baby.
Yeah.
And they do like, you know, how are you feeling? And I had the courage at the time, which was really, really hard, to say, I feel like I should not be this sad. Something is wrong. And I was told, well, if it gets worse, give us a call.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm not the only one, but you know, and then it took me months and months and months and months and months after that to again reach out to a different doctor to say, hey, something is wrong, I need help. And that was more what remedied the situation. But I agree with you. I feel like so many moms just fall through the cracks from top to bottom, whether you have great health care, you know, whether they're taking care of your body well or not, no matter the socioeconomic status or any of that, it's, moms just fall through even when they do say something. Yeah.
And I want to touch on the provider piece because it's so huge. You know, sometimes you get in with your doctor, you've had them since before you were pregnant, and you just like ride them out, you know, through the entire experience. And because we moved states, I was forced to get new doctors. I had one in the South Bend, Indiana area, because we lived down there for a while at the beginning of my pregnancy. And she was so wonderful. My current doctor is also amazing, but it was such a breath of fresh air because I feel like she cared about me as a person. She even called me like a year after my daughter was born, even though I only saw her a couple of times in early pregnancy. And I was like, wow. And then getting up here, and this doctor that I had here, granted, she was aware of everything going on in my life. My dad was very sick at the end of my pregnancy, and then he passed. And she just like hugged me and was like, are you okay? Like, what can we do for you? Do you need resources? Can I point you towards resources? And I was like, this is the way it should be, you know? And not all doctors will, like you said, not all of them are listening.
And, you know, I didn't, you know, yes, I was young, but I also didn't think that I was allowed to ask for anything else. I thought, you know, like, it'll be fine. Like, I'll just have this doctor. And it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. And so I didn't think, you know, I thought, well, why would I do that? I don't want to complain. I don't want to call them and say, hey, I don't want this doctor anymore, you know? So I think just advocating for themselves is super important. And kind of having that like forethought to think, you know, I'm able to say what I want and don't want, and I need good care.
Yeah, there's a woman I connected with. Her name is Amanda, and she's also part of our cohort, and she's a birth educator. And, she's teaching pregnant women who have concerns about, like, I don't like this and I don't like this. And she's like, well, you're kind of asking to dismantle the entire system. We can't really do that, especially not in those 40 weeks. So what you need to do is just, like you said, advocate for yourself. And you can switch providers up to the very end. So if you're not happy with what you're getting, I think we all need to do that more. Just advocating for ourselves more and quit being afraid to be like, this isn't working for me. I need something else in any capacity of your life.
Yep.
I think
that's definitely something I struggled with growing up, is like, you just do what you're supposed to do and you don't say anything. You just do it. And that's, again, it's super freeing now that I'm aware of that, and it can be something for me to watch out for myself. But it really, like, I now feel like I'm ready to conquer the world. Like, I can say something. I can send my own food back now. I could never do that before.
Yeah.
I would do it. Then together forever, he would do it. I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to be the person who says something now. And it's like, I agree with you about integrity. It's all about integrity to yourself.
Yeah.
It's not about doing what you're supposed to. To me, integrity was doing what you were supposed to do.
Exactly. Martha Beck talks about this all the time. I was listening to something with Kathy and Martha Beck earlier, and it's like, that's exactly it. Like, we all think, oh, we're being a good girl. We're not upsetting anybody. No, you're lying to yourself and to everybody. Oh, I get goosebumps.
Me too. It gets me.
It's so hard when and I think you and I are very, very similar. Like, oh, I'm going to be a good girl. And I think a lot of us that go into, helping professions like teaching or nursing or things like that, I think a lot of us are wired the same way. And it's like so scary to make the shift because it's so uncomfortable. But
well, I also think that, like, that's where the meditation comes in, is we don't even realize that we're doing that until you sit down and go, what do I really want? What's bothering me about? I know something's bothering me here. What is it? And figuring out what it is. And then you go, oh, it's that I didn't stand up for myself and I should have done that. And that gave me that icky feeling. So next time when that happens, I'm going, just kind of learning from your own mistakes, but really finding where those pieces are, because it's so, I mean, that's our culture. That's that, you sit down and be quiet, you be a good girl. That's our culture. And it's just, I'm so ready to just burst out of that. And I'm so excited to see other moms do that too. And I'm like, I just want to shout it. I'm like, do what you want to do.
Yeah. What has pushed me is having 2 little girls. And I'm like, I can't continue this cycle and have them grow up and model and continue the cycle, in their own lives. Like, it's not fair to any of us. It's like, we're done. We're done pretending that we don't have needs. We're done just going along with everything for the sake of being agreeable. Like, no more. And my 6-year-old gives me a run for my money because she is so beautiful and amazing, but she's not agreeable if it's not in alignment with her. She's like, nope. Like, okay.
My son's I appreciate that. And he's it's funny because he'll parrot. He's obviously heard me say this before, but he'll go, Mommy, I'm not changing my answer. And I do that all the time. Hey, I told you this. This is what I'm standing by. I'm not changing my answer. And so he'll say it like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is funny to hear them parrot things back to you. And you're like, okay. I mean, I'm glad they hear me.
Right.
But don't use it on me.
Right. Here's the appropriate context to use it and not on me.
I know, right? Yeah. Maintain your boundaries elsewhere. I need you to eat your vegetables. Like,
right.
So funny. Oh my gosh. Besides meditation and hobbies, is there anything else that you do to reconnect to yourself and motherhood? I mean, those are big, having those in place. I didn't know if there was anything else.
Yes, mindset's a really big one, and kind of like I've already said, it's a lot of giving yourself permission and getting moms to get there, to give themselves permission to be and do and feel. So it's a lot of slowing down and purposeful practicing those kinds of concepts.
Good. I love that. So important. And y'all, it's not that hard. I know when you're starting out, you're like, you want me to do what?
Yeah.
But once you start integrating it, it's like addictive, but in the best way. You're like, I gotta have it.
But it's also a little bit like, why didn't I do this before? Like, it seems so like small, just a small little switch. but then it changes your whole world and it's amazing.
I agree. So many people are coming on and saying the same kind of things. It's just, recalibrating and choosing joy and just, taking care of yourself. And it's just, maybe if enough people say it and enough people hear it, maybe the shift will happen that we
hey, it worked for us. So
I know. I love it so much. So tell us where people can find you and a little bit about your offerings.
Yeah. So I am mostly on Instagram. I am at It's Sarah Schafer. So Sarah, Sarah, Schafer, Schafer. Come find me there. I'll be doing some lives throughout September, and then my course will start in October. But that is where I'll be. I'm kind of there all the time, and I love actually talking to people. It's been my focus of not, I'm not commenting like fire emojis only on things. I have real conversation, which not that those are bad, but I want to have actual conversations, and I've gotten to do that this way. So I'm really loving that. So come send me a DM or comment or whatever you want. But I love hearing real things from real moms. I just had a mom tell me the other day something that I posted that was just kind of silly, but she said, "Oh my God, why did this make me cry?" And I was like, "Yes, let's do this." And so we talked about it, and it was amazing. And we had such a similar experience. It was great to connect over something that seemed little at the time, but really resonated with her. So that's what I'm here for.
I love that. We'll definitely put all your links in the show notes. What is this clothing line that you just glossed over, though? You were just like, I'll throw this thing.
It's one of my million side projects. So it's that's on Instagram too and Facebook for that one. It's Oak and Io. My son's middle name is Oak, and then Io is a moon of Jupiter. We're big space nerds. So Oak and Io.
I love it.
It is gender neutral tees and sweatshirts. And I'm also a big orange fan, so we have some oranges, but like kind of a neutrally vibe. Moms and minis. I have the cutest like little bestie tees and sweatshirts people love. So feel free to check that out. They're adorable.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to say we can't just gloss over that because that's a big deal. I love it so much. This conversation has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope everyone goes and finds you. And I think the work you're doing is so important, and I think we'll eventually shift this world, us mamas.
Yeah. Ditto. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah, for this conversation. It's so important to share our stories and struggles so that when new mothers struggle, they realize it's not a them problem. If you're listening to this episode in real time, Sarah's program starts on October 6th. So if you're a mom who's looking to get their spark back, please check her out. Her links are available in the show notes. Here are this week's key takeaways. 1, admitting that we're struggling to ourselves is the first step. 2, when you find that you're struggling, ask for help in any way. People want to help. Start first with small requests and work your way up to bigger asks if you have to. Keep track of what you need, so if someone asks, you're prepared with responses. 3, the idea of purpose for moms is so heavy. There doesn't have to be one thing. Living your life, doing what you enjoy, is living in your purpose. 4, it is okay to set down things that no longer serve you. Beliefs, relationships, career goals. If it doesn't light you up, let it go. 5, when it comes to hobbies, find something that lights you up inside. It doesn't have to go anywhere. You can do an activity just for the sake of doing it. If you need to figure out what you want to do, ask yourself, what did you want to do as a kid that you either had to set down or that you've always wanted to do but have never been able to do? 6, friends, if you've been listening, you've heard this recurring theme of meditation. If you're not meditating, please find a form that resonates with you and give it a try. Take the time to just be and exist. 7, there is so much growth in motherhood, and although parts of it do, in fact, suck, the woman you become is so amazing. And 8, you're doing a good job. Even if it's not to your standard, you're trying. You're doing a good job. This segues so beautifully into my newest offer on helping prepare for the many unknowns of the transition into motherhood. On Tuesday, October 10th at 1 p.m. Eastern, I am hosting a free 1-hour Design Your Maternity Leave workshop. If you are not available to attend the live session, a recording will be available, but you do need to register via the link in the show notes to receive the recording. Also, if you haven't grabbed my 18-page maternity leave planning guide that is absolutely free, you're going to want to do that as soon as possible. Again, it includes 18 pages of tips and tools to create an aligned plan that honors your needs from workload transition to building support with a new baby and honoring your need for self-care. But next week, this freebie will turn into a paid resource. So grab yours via the link in the show notes as soon as possible. Also, rolling out so soon is my one-to-one individualized maternity leave planning. If you're looking for individualized attention to work through all the details specific to your situation, my one-to-one leave guidance will be here so soon. For more information, check out the show notes and be added into the waitlist so you'll be the first to know. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while now, you've probably heard several references to Kathy Heller and her work. I will drop some links in the show notes so you can find her and her podcast. She's also started a membership community called The Quilt that has weekly meetings and is a really fantastic place to connect with other like-minded women. So I'll drop all those links for you there. Don't forget to hang out with me on socials at Having a Mom Moment on both Instagram and Facebook, although I am much more active on Instagram at this time. And as this podcast is just for us moms and mamas to be, drop me a DM or email at havingamamoment@gmail.com if there's something you'd like to hear about on a future episode. And if you like what you're hearing, please follow, subscribe, and leave a review on your preferred platform. It would mean so much. In case someone has told you today, you are amazing, you are loved, and I'm so proud of the beautiful human that you are. Take care of yourself, mama.